Welcome everyone to another episode of Talent You Should Know, where we focus on the entertainment industry on a different level. Not only will there be artist and actor interviews of known and unknown talent, but insight into the team behind them that helps them build their brand. Each week, we'll tackle a different person in the industry with talents in their own rights. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome everyone to another episode of Talent You Should Know. Today, I'm so happy we have Sophia May, who is not just a wonderful singer and songwriter, but also a mental health nurse. So we'll be talking about a lot of things today. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm really good. And it's really nice to be able to say that, because the last few years have been quite tricky and quite difficult. So it's really nice to say I feel really good.
Yeah.
I feel kind of in my purpose at the moment. So that's always a great thing, right?
Yeah. And I told someone this, I think it was maybe 2 days ago. And I said, I can actually say that I'm happy. And I said, and I'm saying that because I was almost scared to be happy, right? To say it and to really acknowledge it, because I was so used to being sad all the time.
Yeah.
And when you own it, you're like, yeah. I'm okay.
Yep. And it's the fear of, like, even if you're happy, that it might turn around again, isn't it? It's that kind of that cycle. Yeah. I'm with you. I hear you. I've been there.
Let's start from the beginning, which is your music. So how did you start in the industry?
Oh gosh, we're going not that far back. So when I was like 15, my sister kind of pushed me into it was like a karaoke competition type thing, but the judges were sort of industry, fairly well known. It was one of them was a relative of James DeBerg, who sang Lady in Red.
Yes.
So I just did it, but I was so nervous, and it wasn't, I only ever really sang like in the shower and with my friends or whatever, So I won the competition. And then it just kind of went from there. I just worked with different people locally, and when I say locally, actually I was in the countryside living at the time, but I used to travel to Bristol and worked with some people there. And then I just happened to do a house track with a friend of mine called Chris, who's also known as Bellatrix, and so we did the song. He was like, do you fancy trying like a little house song? And I was like, well, I could do it. I'm not really I wouldn't say house music's my thing. I was kind of writing R&B music. And and the next thing I know, I had my daughter, and 3 months later, I had a phone call to say your song's I think it was like number 8 in the Billboard or something. And then about 2 weeks later, it went to number 1. And I was like, and then I was whisked off and did lots of shows, and the rest is kind of history from there, really.
And you worked with like 50 Cent and Gloria Gaynor. Oh my gosh.
Gloria is wonderful. Like, she's such a kind, loving soul. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
So you were working a lot. You were touring a lot for years and years, and then you decided to take a break. So what was a catalyst of that? Because it was kind of right when you were really kind of in the rhythm of doing a lot of things.
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of my marriage and my partner, my ex-husband. It was always quite tricky. He wanted to be successful in the industry himself. And I'm not really one to try and outshine somebody. So I was prepared to kind of put myself on the back burner to support him. So I started doing more like hip hop R&B stuff to support his journey. And it's not that the house music fell off, because I was still doing little bits and pieces here and there, but it wasn't my main goal, really. Yeah.
So do you think that do you miss performing? Do you think you'll start doing it more, or? Yeah,
so when I eventually left him, all of a sudden, and then I was very much, I'd made a lot of connections, really like quite closely in contact with, for example, like Nelly's DJ, he's a producer as well. And I was very clear on, I understand if this needs to stop now because, you know, I was introduced by him. So, but honestly, like, I couldn't believe how many people were like, we're grateful that you're now doing this properly, and we're here for you. So I think people saw what was kind of going on really underneath it all, and I think that they just wanted to see me doing what I do best again. So it was like the support was just legitimately lovely, and how can I not keep going when it's like that? There was no pressure for me with music ever, and I think that's probably why I was as successful as I was, because it wasn't like the be all and end all. I enjoyed it, so therefore people felt that I enjoyed it, I think.
And I think what's good is that the reason I reached out to you is because you were on Clubhouse, and you know, you were talking about mental health and in the entertainment industry, and that was a topic that I really, really, really wanted to cover, because between acting and music, those are two of the like most brutal industries as far as like, you know, critique and everything. So, you know, as you were coming back into, you know, the industry, was that something that you said, okay, now, you know, I'm kind of mentally prepared for this? I know things were coming to you, but were you ready when they started coming?
Absolutely. Like, I had built my resilience. I did my nurse training I qualified in 2017. But I'd always worked in and around drug and alcohol services, all different services, and mental health services. And I wanted to get qualified, and I went and I got my degree, and I got a first class degree, and I worked really, really hard, and my marriage ended pretty much. It was ending on the end path right in my final year of uni. So it was a tricky time, but I think I just sunk myself into my uni stuff so I could really finish how I wanted to. But I definitely I feel now. So everything picked up, and then just as I think I was due to go to Miami, like, then lockdown happened. I was supposed to go like 3 days after we locked down, and I had lots of traveling to do and stuff. But I had started to. So I'd been in America the year before a couple of times, and I'd been to like Amsterdam and done there was like the conference there and stuff. So I'd started to do stuff, but I felt ready because there was no pressure for me. There was nobody at home to please. There was none of that stuff. You know, the only thing I needed to focus on was doing my music, creating the right image of myself as I wanted to be seen as me, and my daughter and her health. So other than that, life was like, I was looking forward to it, but it's fine, because you know what, everything happens for a reason. And even the whole Clubhouse thing, like meeting, would we have ever met? Maybe, but probably not, you know. So I'm able to kind of really create a lot more awareness around mental health now using Clubhouse and my music platform. So it's all sort of fallen into place at the right time. And I think, you know, I think stopping with the pandemic was a good thing for me, because I was about ready to burn out had I continued for a couple more months anyway. And as we know, burnout's never good for anybody. So
it's never good. You know, you kind of like, you're frozen almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So was there a particular moment that made you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to really advocate for mental health now? Like, I'm going to really do the push. Was it the beginning of the pandemic, or was it something else prior?
I feel I've always been an advocate for mental health and well-being, you know, through my work as well, obviously, but Clubhouse kind of boosted that for me. So when I first came on the app, I was sort of from who I was invited by, which is King Price, who's a friend from New York, and he asked me to come and do some music rooms. You know, standardly, if I can offer support with music, I would always do that. So we opened the Words Out Wednesday, and we started doing it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then it was sort of like, so much, no time, you know, like just trying to get like working out and sorting out my daughter and work, and like I couldn't do the work-life balance too well. And then I was thinking to myself, I was in these rooms and men were starting to share a little bit here and there. I was just sort of hearing that, and I thought, well, a lot of the people were coming into the room because they liked who I was as a person, and they obviously wanted to hear what I had to say, because I'd always try and touch on the mental health side. Yeah. And then I thought, you know what? I met Juan Gray, who's also on the app, and we just shared the same passion around mental health, and we were like, let's just try and do a mental health room. And then just kind of built from there, and we've just had support from so many different people. I mean, sometimes our rooms have had up to 8,000 people in them.
Yeah, wow.
So it's been off the chain, really.
So I saw this quote on one of your posts, and you said 35% of men wait more than 2 years or have never disclosed a mental health problem to a friend or family member.
Yeah.
And, that really kind of stuck with me, because I was dating someone, and, I see a therapist, and I was seeing a therapist then, and he was just like, I never had the chance to do it. And I set him up with with my therapist, and he went to 2 sessions, and then he was just like, and he said it was good, but then he never went back, and he's like, oh, I don't have time, or oh, I can't afford it. And I'm like, he said he'll see you for free, but it was always something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you think
that kind of avoidance? Yeah. I mean, ultimately it takes a lot to speak in the first place, and I think as long as we can get men speaking, and this is the whole theory behind the room that I run, it's not about people giving out information. It's not about professionals doing that. We know there's already a barrier. There's a cultural barrier. There's standard barriers with men seeking medical support or any sort of therapy or whatever. So the starting point to me is for them to hear other men speaking their real human truth about these things, so that they know that they're not on their own in those feelings, and they're not on their own on their mission to get well. So it is, I think sometimes you've got to start with, you've always got to start with the foundation, haven't you?
Yeah. Do you
it's like you want to, like, it's like trying to change, I don't know, lose weight. When I was trying to do that, it's like saying, oh, I want 4 stone off immediately. Like, no, you just need to take steps. Tomorrow.
You know what I mean?
But we do try and do that, don't we? One therapy session is just going to be enough. Well, we know that that's not the case, but if that therapy session then allows you to maybe speak a little bit freer with your friends or your family or whatever, those steps are being made. It's just everybody's process is different and everybody's time is different.
And I thought that was, the steps that I picked up in therapy and I wound up switching therapists, which, I would hope people understand that, like, not all therapists are for everyone. There could be one that, like, my first therapist was fine. The one that I have now, even just talking to him, the breakthroughs during the conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, oh, you're good. He's like, I'm good. So, what are the first steps kind of to take in, recognizing that you're struggling, do you think?
Well, we would tell ourselves all the time, wouldn't we? I mean, men will tell themselves all the time. They might not tell us that they tell themselves, but they know that they're struggling.
Yeah.
I think the steps is, again, it's different for everybody. I mean, I can speak for our room. We have lots of people that listen. They'll just listen. And to me, they're participating because they're listening. Mm-hmm. Because guaranteed, given, a couple or a few sessions, then they'll start to raise their hand and come up and listen on the stage. So it's all these little steps, right? And then one day something might resonate with them, and then they open their mic and they want to speak.
Yeah.
And they might even speak without really speaking. So it might be all very surface level. They might not really want to dig any deeper than that, because they want to be heard, but they don't want to let known what, how they're really, really feeling until that one person that they really resonate with speaks, and then they might speak after that. So, the process is different for everybody. We're all unique.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. All I know is that the suicide rate in men is a lot higher than women, and a lot of that is to do. I mean, I work with 4 students from the university that I work at, who are helping develop the app that we're doing for men and mental health. And
right,
they are they've done a primary piece of research on this. So, you know, men not speaking is a particularly common cause of tragedy.
Can you talk a little bit about Mendable?
Yes, yeah. So the it's going to be an app for men and mental health where we can have a little bit more of a confidential space. So I'd say the principles, although they're similar to Clubhouse, they're not in a respect. There's things on Clubhouse that cannot happen. Things cannot be anonymous. Things aren't really confidential as they could be, and that's fine because it works for the platform that it is, and people have come into that platform and they've decided, like myself, to do a space that's available for those sorts of things because it's there. But you know, Mendable is going to be its own community away from that. Hopefully, you know, we're really looking at pain points and looking at actions, and we're really like taking the time. We have the foundation with the primary piece of research as well. So there's a lot going on. There's lots of people interested in being a part of things, and I mean, obviously, I can't say too much. But
no, I know you can't. I just, you know, we can.
Can you?
What I want to do is make sure that, like, I say it and I mention it, so then people are looking out for it. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
I mean, definitely. And anyone can go to www.mendable.app. and sign up for any interest in being part of the beta stages as well. There's a video on there from some of the guys in our room that have spoken, and it's just like, they're just amazing. Like, they're amazing. These men have truly got my heart, because you know what? They might not sit there and they don't necessarily feel like they've fixed everything, but they turn up twice a week, guaranteed, and they support and they listen and they're learning and they're growing. And I'm growing from it as well, you know. All of us, even the women in the room, it's lovely to see women in the room, because that's a woman that really wants to understand men, isn't it? That will sit there knowing that they're not really going to get much of an opportunity to speak,
right?
But they have the opportunity to learn, and they're prepared to. And I think that's a real confidence booster for our men as well, because ultimately, men see it as not being strong to cry or show vulnerability, or you know, to speak about how they're feeling, and yet all of us women there are thinking these are the strongest men ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I understand that, like, growing up, you know, in a family, you know, my parents grew up South Side Chicago. They went through a bunch of stuff. My father was in the Army. So, you know, growing up in that kind of household, it was like, if we're crying, it's like, what are you really crying about? Because we remember being impoverished. So what do you know, and then you kind of trained to say, I almost used to question if my emotions were valid now, because people went through things, you know, worse than, or my parents went through things worse than me. And I said, finally, I was like, you know what? They are, right?
Listen, we keep it all relative, because there was somebody speaking in our group the other day about getting a dog, and there were real tears around a dog. And now, you know, most people would be thinking, well, it's just a dog. But in fact, it was one of the biggest recognized rooms where people spoke up and supported him because of their own experience around it. And it was like, even shocked me, do you know what I mean? Because I'm not necessarily a dog person. I've got 2 cats. But, you know, what we try and do in our room is allow people to speak about whatever it is, not thinking that their problems are not as bad as that person's, or it's not about that. It's about, you will touch on somebody in that room. You know, my dad spoke about his cancer journey, and I had a message from I had a message from a number of people thanking me for my dad. I've also had a phone call today from someone from the BBC that wants to interview me and him. You know, there was a particular one person in particular whose daughter has cancer, who reached out and he felt it was like he came into the room for that reason. You know, so you never ever know what you're saying, what it might impact for somebody else. And then if you know that you've impacted on somebody else, what it does for your own resilience and your own mind. You know, it's a beautiful cycle that goes on anyway, but it's nice to see.
Are there and I don't know if this is a strange question, are there mental, like, exercises that you can do just to kind of keep yourself maintained every day? Are there things that you should do, or like what? It sounds strange, but I feel like maybe there's something that you can do.
So there is loads you can do, because it's all about self-care, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if the thing that you do that helps you remain resilient is to work out in the gym, then that will be what it is. If the pandemic comes and it stops you from the gym, like it's happened to me, then you can work out at home. There's always things that you can do. I've found mindfulness really helpful. When I kind of felt like I was crashing last year, I had some mindfulness sessions, and I had some counselling as well. And mindfulness is something that if you practice it over and over, you naturally are doing it. Like, I feel like a much calmer person than I was. I mean, I've got my friend here today. She will know that I was, I wasn't quite as calm as I am these days. Well, I wasn't wild, but, you know, I do feel a lot more peaceful now than I used to. Definitely. And that's just practicing mindfulness, I would say. And also just talking through the things that I was feeling and not feeling guilty for feeling that way.
Yeah. It's funny. My daughter told me, I think it was a month ago, she was like, you're a lot more calm. Like, we were driving and she said, your road rage isn't
right.
Oh, I was like, I could have put a case like a couple of times, but she said, you know, I could tell, you know.
Yeah. But it's flipping that mindset as well. It's that kind of you've heard of CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
And you know, it's those kind of using those sorts of processes, thinking, well, maybe that's not the reason for that. Maybe it might be this, and not all, like, question things. We're so quick to not question and go straight to the negative.
Yeah.
Like, if we would just do that. So the road rage, you know, that's a prime example. You've got road rage, you lose your head because somebody's driving slow in the front, but ultimately they could be driving slow because they've got their elderly parent in the driving seat. You know, they might be frustrated themselves because they've got to drive slow. You know, if I have my mum in the car, she holds onto the side and I'm driving at like 20 miles an hour. Right. Like, why are you doing that? But it's you know, those sorts of things. If you can just try and reframe your mind that it's not always straight to the negative, because I think we have a habit of doing that, and that's something that I've changed as well.
Yeah.
I try and look at the positive in things. I'm trying not to consume myself with the negative stuff, because when I was just breaking down piece by piece.
Yeah.
Till I was flawed.
Yeah. I'm so worried about everything else, and it's like, you know, this is affecting you. It's not, you know, affecting them. Right.
Exactly.
So with this, you have these two platforms. You have, you know, mental health, right? You have entertainment. And how are you, you know, do you intertwine them, or, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, with music, it's something that I enjoy doing, but it's not like something I'm desperate to do. And I know that, and you know, I'm not taking from anybody else that's in the industry, because I know some people are diehard music all the way, and a lot of those people come to me, and I'll give them the opportunities that I've had, or I'll give them advice if I've got it. But it's not my driving force. If that was the case, I probably would have blown up, because if I'd have put as much energy into that as I do into mental health, I'd be gone. You know? But for me, my platform, like, I truly believe, like I said, I feel like I'm in my purpose, because I believe my platform has been a platform that will help with creating more awareness around mental health.
So I don't know what's going on this week, right? But I feel like, you know, I've said this maybe a couple of times this week about how music has been a passion of mine probably since I was little. I was a songwriter, you know, singer. Then I was like, I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to, you know, have to run. And it was a lot of things. But that was my passion. And then I realized, but my purpose, right? Probably I just realized it 2 years ago, is to showcase other people, you know, uplift them. But in the entertainment industry, and really, because I appreciate the art and I appreciate all of these things so much, that's kind of what my purpose is to, you know, highlight that. And I think, you know, I heard that with you. It's like you love music,
but you also know what you can draw from people, because that was your passion. So you're in the right place to be doing what you're doing right now. I completely get it. Completely.
What are your hopes for the future, you know, as far as what you're doing right now?
do you know what? I just kind of want to keep doing what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm really hopeful for when the app comes, and you know, it's a phenomenal team that we've got right now, and I'm excited to see what happens. I'm not putting pressure on it. I'm not going to do that because this is all for a good cause. I'm not being paid for any of the stuff that I'm doing. None of it. You know, and I've been offered. You know, people have said, "Oh, can I pay you to wear this mental health?" No, I'll just do it. Like, I'm not. I work anyway. You know, I work at a university. I can work as a nurse. I've been volunteering to give out the vaccines as well. Like, I'm not by any means rich or rolling in it, but I'm okay enough to know that there's other people that need my time. Yeah. So I think for me, yes, I've got music coming and stuff. Like, I'm always just plodding along with the music, and stuff comes up, and I'll work on it and stuff. But at the moment, I would just like to continue to see the movement grow. And I am getting so much satisfaction out of seeing people actually just feel okay. Yeah. It's not necessarily about them winning in the whole bigger scheme of life, but winning in their own is really important. Yeah. And it's always made me happy to see other people happy. So I feel like, that's what I'm going to keep doing. Yeah. That's so awesome. I wish there was someone like you, you know, in auditions and things like that, like to talk to the judges before they go out, like, listen. I know, but you got to remember, that's all TV, isn't it? It's all TV. I mean, I would never sacrifice money over somebody's well-being. I just wouldn't. Well, no, not TV, but just like, you know, in general, you know, Hollywood or music, and say, okay, well, what's constructive criticism and what's brutal, right? And I know. But I feel like some people thrive off that. They thrive off being that character, and sometimes it takes time for people to see. So what I can do is I can help educate more people. And if I can help educate them, then one day they might see it for themselves. Because one thing I do know is that being directive with people is not the way forward. That's not education. And I've been there, and I've been that person that's just been like, you should do this and this will work for you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You've just got to facilitate spaces for people to direct themselves. And I think that's normally, you know, you can be there on the sideline because you don't want people to just be, you know, you got to be cautious. I don't want to, if someone came into our room in real crisis, like, I'm not just going to sit back and say nothing. But I do know that we have had people come in, and it's been able to be managed by the men in our room that have been coming to this room since the day one. Twice a week, guaranteed, you know, they're there 100%, and they literally are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. Like, I haven't had a man for a while, and I feel like I got like 100 odd. It's great because I know these are men that have my back. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I have theirs, and they know that too. So yeah, it's really nice. I love that about Clubhouse, that you can actually, and what's really good for what you're doing on there is you can have side rooms. You can do like the private, you know, room on the side. So, you know, that's really beneficial. I tend not to do things like that. I've done it one time with somebody who'd asked to, and I just gave information around addiction. That's all I did. I made some suggestions because, you know, our space is not therapy. I'm not doing it under my registration. I'm not trying to get sued for something that's happened in the room. It's all pretty fully protected from that. But at the same time, I'm not going to leave somebody in distress and not offer some level of information. I mean, information is always in my bio and stuff as well for that reason. I want to thank you so much for coming here. I'm hoping, can you just tell us not just where to find you, but also, you know, your schedule on Clubhouse for those who... Absolutely. Yeah, so everything of mine, luckily enough, I put it all into one place. I'm so grateful I did that. But everything's Sophia May Music. So May spelled with M-A-Y, Sophia May Music. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. So, and sophiamaymusic.com for the website, which probably needs updating soon. And Clubhouse, our Men and Mental Health Room is on a Monday and Thursday, currently at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 12 p.m. Pacific, and it's 8 p.m. UK time. but we do sometimes have a little bit of a change when the clocks go back and forward. But at the moment, as it stands, I think we're on track for a little while now. We had a week gap where it changed and then people didn't know. So, but 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK, 12 p.m. Pacific, Monday and Thursday. And we open random different rooms at different times as well. So if you just come, if you're on Clubhouse, come and follow the Mental Health Awareness Club. You can see it in my profile, or you can search for it as well. And the Mental Health Awareness Club is where we open our rooms at.
Okay. And
everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome, by the way, men and women. We have rooms that run on, like, we've had Dr. K open rooms on COVID vaccinations, just keep delivering information with some other doctors. So we do have rooms like that. We're currently planning a women's mental health room as well, because there is a demand for that. And I absolutely want to do it. And it's not because I don't want to do it and I don't ride for us women, because ultimately the work I'm doing with men is only going to hopefully save some other woman from going through the things that I have with a man, if we can help men kind of resolve themselves and find some sort of peace for themselves. But I do want to do some women's rooms, and we are getting that together, so I will definitely be in contact with you to help with that.
I would love it. I would absolutely love that. And everyone, keep a lookout for the Mendable app, please.
Yes. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to let you get on with your day, and please, just keep in contact, reach out to me. I am accessible and willing to help.
Oh, I am absolutely going to do that.
Thank you so much. Have a great, great day.
Thank you. And you. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Talent You Should Know. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well as leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.